What's going on, Falcon fans? It's your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. So, guys, this 2024 season is over, and it's time to talk about 2025 seasons. Want to say congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles. They put a whooping on the Kansas City Chiefs last night. So, still, no team has was able to three-peat in the National Football League. So um, but looking at that game and looking at the champs, and you like, man, what do we need to actually to get there the next year? And I know every fan base probably looking at it that way. Um, so what I saw was a dominance performance from um, the defensive front line for the Philadelphia Eagles. I saw a dominance performance. I mean, they rushed four. They didn't blitz not one time the whole game. Patrick Mahomes got 6 sacks, 16 pressures, and just pretty much just wrecked the game. And when you're looking at things like that, and you're looking at what teams need, the old cliche defense wins championships. Well, I can tell you yesterday that's exactly what we seen from the Philadelphia Eagles. And defense was able to win those guys the championship. So, guys, we're definitely going to talk. What we're going to talk about today is pass rushers. Now, we went through the free agency pool there, and we looked at all the Falcons' needs. We know what Atlanta Falcons need 100%. Um, I think the main focus for the Falcons should be on defensive side of the ball. So, of course, free agency comes first. Then we're going to talk about draft. We get into the draft today. We're going to talk about 8 potential pass rushers that Atlanta Falcons could draft in the draft this year. And this talking about I'm just talking about in the first round. Later on, we'll get into some sneaky picks later on in the rounds and things like that. But today we're going to talk about the top 8 guys um, on most of people's boards where they think going to be the best pass rushers. So, guys, with that being said, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Please hit that notification bell so you know I drop another video. Please hit the like button so I know you guys like here to talk about. Then please share my video throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come in here and talk about. That's right, these Atlanta Falcons. James says we need to work on our O line and D line plus go younger. So, like he said, when you looking at the game last night and you kind of figuring out what the Atlanta Falcons need to do, right? Great. I think it starts in the trenches. Everybody always says that, but in reality, um, you can have all the skill in the world. You can have the greatest quarterback in the world. If he can't be protected, right, and if you can able to get after him, you can wreck the game. And that's exactly what um, the Philadelphia Eagles did last night. All right. So what our first before we get into the pass rushers, we do got to talk about the some off-season key dates for going into the off-season for our for the NFL, and kind of give you guys an idea of what's going to be going on. Coming up into the draft, which is going to be on the 24th of April, 24th through the 26th of April. So that's when the draft is going this year. But before that, of course, the scouting combine starts on February 24th. So these coaches get right back into it. 14 days from now, they'll be right back in Indianapolis at the scouting combine, going over looking at the prospects and trying to make their team better. On March the 10th through the 12th, that's the negotiation period, right? So and you can call it tampering period. They can't change the name. It's not tampering anymore. It's called negotiation. So you can actually talk to potential free agents and get some contracts done, deals set up. And that started at 12 p.m. on the 10th, and it goes to the 12th, right? Goes to the 12th to about around 4 o'clock when the new league year starts, right? So the new league year starts on March 12th. That's when all teams have to be good on the cap, right? So you're looking at teams that's really over the cap a lot. One team in particular, or one team in our division, It's the New Orleans Aints, right? They like $51 million over the cap. So those teams got to make decisions. And the Falcons also got to make decisions. We're not as bad as the New Orleans Aints, but we are. So a lot of decisions got to be made. Of course, you also remember that's when the Atlanta Falcons will have to guarantee Kirk Cousins $10 million going to the next season. So some decisions got to be made there as well. We already know the thing with Kirk Cousins, you know, apparently was injured and played through injury, and everybody just found out about it like it's a conspiracy. Did the team know? Whatever, but whatever. I feel like Kirk Cousins is trying to find his way out of Atlanta, and he's doing everything he needs. Seems like he's trying to force the Atlanta Falcons to actually cut him, and they might just do that. But hopefully they can get a trade done before that time frame. So we'll just have to see. Um, so that's where we're at. That's pretty much the offseason schedule. On April 21st, the team actually can start the offseason program, offseason workout, and players like that. Then, like I said, on the 24th of April, the draft. So that's when the draft starts, and we'll see who the Atlanta Falcons pick in the first round. They decide to, move back in the round and try to pick up more draft capital. There's a lot of things going to happen before then, guys. We know free agencies before that, so we're going to definitely get more clarity on what the Atlanta Falcons may be doing in the draft on 24th of April. So there you have it. James says we keep players too long. I agree. Sometimes you get it to the point where you kind of get attached to players. Even as fans, we get attached to players as well. And I guess the only person you're thinking about is, if you saying keep too long, it would be Jake Matthews and Grady Jarrett. I can tell you what, Jake Matthews is not all world, all pro at left tackle, but he's consistent, he's steady, and it's hard to find a consistent and steady left tackle, right? It's interesting because now we got a left-handed quarterback. Is the pressing need is on the right side, more because it's protecting Michael Penix's blind side. So that's a idea. The Atlanta Falcons need to look invest more on the right side of the line, right tackle, with Caleb McGarry over there, or do they still need to focus on their left tackle with Jake Matthews? Because we still want to protect both sides in the front and the back, right? But the blind side is always, something that you will always have to factor in when you're talking about quarterbacks, because they can't see the pass rusher coming from the blind side. So it's going to be interesting to see. But those are the offseason dates, guys. I'm really interested to see what the Atlanta Falcons do, up until the 24th of April. And I think they got a lot of work to do. Terry Fontenot, just like James says, do we keep guys too long? We're going to find out. If they still going to ride down that Grady Jarrett roller coaster and see what it's all about. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to talk about, like I said, I want to talk about some of the top pass rushers. Kind of running behind because I really wanted to put some of their, some of their stats up and things like that. But I'll just, talk about them today. We can get more into detail, on these guys later on. But I just want to talk about some of these guys today. So we all know, if you watched the game last night, and I keep going back to that game because, it was just a dominance performance from that front four for the Philadelphia Eagles. Sweat, Carter, Jordan, Davis, all the guys that Atlanta Falcons could have drafted, right? So I know a lot of people saying, well, we went and got Drake London, we got Bijan Robinson, and we could have drafted Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, right? I get it. I understand defense winning championships, but, I think the two guys we did get, Bijan Robinson and Drake London, is going to be really productive for this Atlanta Falcons team. You can't pick everybody in the draft, right? So hindsight 2020, yes, you probably should have went defense. We all assume you know, in the last 4 seasons, Atlanta Falcons are going to go defense at that number 8 overall pick, but they did not, right? They went and got, and I believe, you know, 2 potential All Pros in the future. So, you know, it's not defense, but I think they did not take bad picks at the number 8 spot. So, James said move Caleb McGarrett to the left. Yeah, but you know it's hard to move tackles, man. I don't even know if he could even move to the left side. That's a good point, but I don't know if he ever moved to the left side and be able to handle that. So it's a great point that you mentioned, but just don't know. All right, so first guy we're going to talk about. I know everybody know who it is. It's Abdul Carter, right? This guy has legitimate pass rush skills. He has potential to be an All-Pro pass rusher, right? Coming from Penn State, we know those guys have had a lineage of actually bringing in great pass rushers. You look at a guy like LeVar Arrington way back in the day, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about. Of course, you look at Micah Parsons. Armor Ebiketie actually came from Penn State. So, well, he hasn't panned out the way we wanted him to pan out. But, you know, he was our leading sack go-getter this year. And then you got Abdul Carter. This guy weighed 260 pounds, 6'3", on a 4.40. Just dynamic pass rusher. More than likely, he won't be on the board when the Atlanta Falcons pick, right? But you got to talk about him, right? Because you just never know. Maybe Atlanta Falcons move up to get him. I doubt that because they don't have any draft capital. But you know, wishful thinking. But Abdul Carter probably be the first. One of the first players off the board. I probably anticipate him going in the top 5. Maybe even in the top 3. You don't know, but Abdul Carter definitely gonna come in and he's gonna wreak havoc on quarterbacks here to come. So we need to be looking out for him. So between those first 5 teams, the Titans, the Browns, the Giants, you know, those teams, somebody's going to get a really good pass rusher. So Abdul Carter is the first guy off the board. Now, when we start talking about going down the list, all these guys probably could come into play because if you're looking at the draft, you're looking at quarterbacks, you're looking at offensive linemen. Some of these guys want to take up some of the pass rush spots. So some of these guys could start to drop to the Atlanta Falcons at number 15, which would be good. So, right. So this one we got to start thinking about where Atlanta Falcons can actually, you know, make way. Now, I feel that the Atlanta Falcons should take a pass rusher in the first 2 rounds. To be honest with you, they need to take defense at least in the first 2 rounds. Now, this is a top heavy draft, so it's not a. Not top. It's a deep draft, which means that you can get a lot of picks between 20 and 60, right? Good picks. So you don't have to. That's why I said they could be a scenario where the Atlanta Falcons actually move back in the draft and they still can get a solid player. And that way they can double up on guys. So that's the way to look at it. But the next guys on the list is James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee, 6'5", from the 4.49, about 245 pounds. Immediate impact pass rusher specialist with the ceiling to develop into a complete third down pass rusher. So this is somebody that Atlanta Falcons definitely could utilize, and we just have to see if he falls to us and if how high a guy like James is on their board, right? Because even though this is a projection of where, you know, the scouts have James Pierce, we don't know where the Atlanta Falcons got him ranked on this board. It's too early now. Pretty sure they already got rankings on the board already. But, you know, doing the draft process, going through, looking at these guys in the combine, their pro days and things like that, it's all going to change. So, but I'm pretty sure they got this guy already somewhere on their board already. Out of all the pass rushers in the draft, who do you think is the best fit for us, including the guys we already have? So, Philip, that is a great question. And the answer for me is unsure. And the reason I say that because I'm not 100% sure how the Atlanta Falcons are going to run their defense this year. If they're going to go more of a 3-4 type defense, or are they going to go more of a 4-3? That's got to be the question the Atlanta Falcons need to ask, because some of these guys fit better in some of those. Like some of these light guys, some of these guys is weigh like 259, 245. Those guys probably fit better in the 3-4, you know, being on the end, right? Because that mean they could go back and do some coverage things, but then they can be pass rush specialists. You look at a guy like Michael Parsons, he fit that 200 to 250, 260 pound dynamic pass rushers, but kind of get ate up in the run game, right? So you have to look at um what their defensive scheme philosophy going to be, and that's the kind of guys you get. Now you talking about guys that's already on our roster. You're going to definitely keep a guy like Armor Ebiketie. I think he's going into his 4th year, so this would be a contract year for him. Um, I'm really interested to see how Brandon Trice is going to factor in. He took an injury early during the training camp process, so we did not get to see him at all this season. So on his return, want to see how Brandon Trice fared when he comes back. I know one thing in college, what we've seen from Brandon Trice was that he was really, really had a motor on him, right? Non-relentless pressure, you know, get it up the field. He's not going to give up on a play. He's going to come back and he's going to be able to do some things. Now, one thing that James mentioned was we need to get young, right? So they did that already last year, right? They took Brandon Trice. They took Rook Roro. They took a Brendan Dollars, right? So they did get younger. So that's one of the things that you gotta like about what the Atlanta Falcons did. They got younger in the trenches already, right? So I mean, we're going to get even younger. If we pick a guy here in the draft, to bolster up that pass rush. So, I hope that answered your question. Kind of didn't. I know because I'm trying to wait to see how the scheme is going to be and how they want to play. But the young guys that we already got in the fold, they're going to play a big role in it. And Rook Roro, Brandon Dorless, Braylon Trice, Armor Ebiketie, all those guys going to factor in the role. Don't want to forget about Zach Harrison because he's still young as well. So all those guys going to factor in into how the Atlanta Falcons going to play this season, right? Now we do have a couple of veterans on the team, so um, just talked about the cap situation. Atlanta Falcons just do have decisions to make, right? With David Amanyata and Grady Jarrett. So we're going to see they're going to go completely young and no veteran present there, or they're going to go all young across the board and have a young, defensive line that Atlanta Falcons going to have to get trained up to really do something. So that's going to be the Philip said do a mock with trade. What's going on, Christy Lewis? Yeah, I want to wait to do the mocks. I usually do mocks later on. I want to wait to after the combine. So we kind of get, because once you do the combine, you start doing those simulated mocks. They have guys rank a little bit more what they thinking, right? Once again, though, when you're looking at the mocks and things like that, we don't know where the Atlanta Falcons have guys ranked at. So it's a crapshoot anyway, because Atlanta Falcons might have a guy way up here on their board that somebody else might have low, right? You look at a guy like Rukuro Roro. I think a lot of people had him lower than when he got drafted, right? I had him a 2nd-round grade, I think, but maybe not as high as the Atlanta Falcons had. Remember, the Atlanta Falcons moved up to go get him. So those are the kind of things you can't factor in to where Atlanta Falcons have guys ranked on their board. So, it's fun to do those mock drafts and things like that. Kind of get an idea, but at the same time, you just don't know where guys is being ranked. So that's James Pierce Jr. All right, the next guy is Michael Williams out of Georgia. I know a lot of people are familiar with him. One thing interesting about the Falcon, I mean the not the Falcons, the Georgia Bulldogs defenders, right? We know they are talented. We know they was all 5 stars coming out of high school. Um, but the way Kirby Smart utilize those guys, right? You don't see a lot of production in college. They can play, but then the stats and the numbers don't show. That's where you have to really go into the film and see how these guys play. You got to look at the upside and things like that. So, for an example, Markel Williams is a guy that didn't have many sacks his last season. He was injured a lot, but you can see the potential there in the way he can be able to grow. So Williams presents one of the most fascinating evaluations in the class. You know, has shown flashes, but at the same time, the production, the number is not there. So you are anticipating, and this where you start to look at these guys' ceiling or their floor and trying to figure out, how good they're going to be, right? So I feel like Michael Williams is a top 15 pick in the draft, so it's not top 10. So you're not, you know, doing a reach here. If you take him at 15 with his potential, I think you might get a good player out of Michael Williams. He's 265, 6'5". Like I said, has really shown a lot of flashes. You just wish you could have seen him more healthier this year to build his stock up. But see, guys like this, and you look at a guy like Trayvon Walker, right, coming out of Georgia, who was the #1 draft pick overall a couple years ago. Um, his athleticism, what he was able to show at the combine, propelled him to be the #1 overall draft pick, right? So Markel Williams can do the same, right? We see the flashes, we see his ability to get after the quarterback. Just got to stay healthy, but we can actually also get to see him perform at the Scouting Combine, his pro days, to build his stock up and make it more. Because when you're looking at film, you like he looked like he has the ability, the length, the strength, right, the explosiveness, the first step, all those things they're going to look at, right? But then if you factor it in with the testing, now you say yes, it's validated that what we've seen on film and his testing matches up to the potential that he probably could be. So Michael Williams definitely I feel is the top 15 pick, and Atlanta Falcons just got to kind of look through some of the low sack numbers and things like that because of his injury and the way Kirby Smart kind of utilizes players, right? So that we help with Michael Williams. The next guy is Landon Jackson out of Arkansas. Guy is 280 pounds. So we're going to get up on the bigger end right here. So you asked me earlier, Philip, about the style of play. He actually fit into the style of play where you playing like a 4-3, right? Because you playing a guy that's 280 pounds, 6'7", big guy, right? Kind of put you in the same framework as Zach Harrison or Calais Campbell. That big of a guy, being on the end, being able to should be a good solid run defender, but also somebody can get after the quarterback as well. So you look at a guy like him, projects as a starting base end, an even front or a strong side defensive end in a 3-4 scheme, right? So either way, he can be really productive, but he's going to be an end for us, right? So you pair him and a guy like Zach Harrison on both of the ends in a 3-4 scheme, right? That could be really something special. Two big, huge human beings, being anchors on our defensive end, clogging up the run and actually putting pressure on the quarterback at the same time. So I kind of like that. We're going to be interested to see how he factors into his athletic traits and see if his stock rises during this scouting period. But Landon Jackson is another guy that definitely go out and take a look at him. The next guy is a guy that Mel Kiper already had mocked to the Atlanta Falcons at number 15, and that's Shemar Stewart, a guy who was actually at the Senior Bowl, had mixed reviews there. 290 pounds, 6'6". So these last two guys we just talked about, they're on the heavier end of the spectrum, being a pass rusher, right? So Shamar Stewart is another guy that did not have a lot of stats per se in college, right? But sometimes I say you have to look past the stats, right? Because sometimes you put up gaudy stats number, but if you already reach your ceiling in college, you can't get any better. Then what, right? So he's already, like I said, he's already been mocked to the Atlanta Falcons in some drafts that I have seen. So a lot of people thinking that the Atlanta Falcons probably going to run that more of that have these guys on the end, right? Either in the 4-3 or 3-4 base, right? So either way, they got these guys lined up on the end, getting up the field. Defensive force Taylor made an aggressive 4-3 scheme where he can pin his ears back. So when I look at guys like this, right, I think about a Dan Quinn style defense where guys are getting up the field, right? Right? They're not trying to hold up gaps and stuff. They're shooting up the field, creating pressure. That's what you like to see. Aggression, getting after the quarterback. I go back to the Super Bowl because that's what we saw last night. Aggression, getting after the quarterback. They only rushed 4 guys. I mean, think about it. They didn't blitz one time last night, right? They was able to get their home with their top 4 guys. So just really impressive. But Shamar Stewart could definitely be one of those guys for the Atlanta Falcons. The next guy on the list is a guy that's been, I think, moving up guys' draft boards. And he had a really, really good Senior Bowl outing, coming from a smaller school in Marshall. But I'm talking about Mike Green, right? He had a breakout senior season, right? His first time being a full-time starter at the University of Marshall. And a guy who's 248 pounds, 6'4", running 4.5. This guy here already has some. You already seen some of his moves that he used. One question was, is he a one-trick pony? If he just be able to bend and get around the corner, or can he show some power and show some power rush as well? And he showed that in the Senior Bowl. I know everybody see that one clip out there when he knocked the offensive lineman on his butt in the bull rush. So Mike Green definitely is a guy that Atlanta Falcons maybe should consider when you're thinking about coming down to the 15th spot, right? A lot of people thinking that he might not even make it because his stock is rising so high. But if he's there and some of these other guys that I just mentioned is off the board, and like I said, you always got to go with what the Atlanta Falcons trying to do. Unless when they on there looking on their board and he's the BPA, the best player available, right? If he's there and you get ready to take him, you pull him right off the bat, right? So that's one of the things that Atlanta Falcons, and I can tell you this from what we've seen over since Terry Fontenot time here, that's pretty much what he's been doing. He's been taking the best player available, even when some of the Atlanta Falcon fan base don't like it, right? We just talked about Jalen Carter, right? Everybody felt like Jalen Carter should have been picked by the Atlanta Falcons, but they went with Bijan, right? Because they felt like he was BPA. And that's how some, teams do. They go best player available. You don't want to reach, even though Jalen Carter definitely wouldn't have been a reach at all, right? Now, we know that he did have some, off the field concerns and things like that about his character. So that could be something that threw him off. But it's not, these decisions are not knee-jerk, guys. These decisions are where the Atlanta Falcons already have their board stacked, right? Probably have it stacked 4 or 5 times and they go over all the scenarios about if this guy get drafted, this guy get pulled on the board, things like this. So they have their board stacked. So it's not a crapshoot. They know who they're going with. You know, if that guy's still on the board when we pick at number 15, he's not going to be our BPA, our best player available. And sometimes it's not need. It's not need at all, right? I know a lot of people saying Atlanta Falcons need to do this. That's why my philosophy, and I think a lot of the what Atlanta Falcons been doing a lot, you know, doing this 10-year with Terry Fontenot, our GM, is really been going taking care of needs in free agency, taking care of your needs in free agency, which I think is a smart, smart strategy because you already know what these guys in free agency are all about. You've seen it on film, you've seen them in the NFL, right? And then when you get in the draft, you take best player available because you're just adding to your team with a potential, especially thinking in the first round, you hopefully you get an all pro, one day, on your roster because you're picking this guy in the first round. So you get the best player available. So if Mike Green is there and he's the best player available, why not take him? So that's one of the things Atlanta Falcons got to do. I don't know where they got him up on the board, but I can tell you what, Mike Green stock is rising more and more and more, right? And his performance at the combine, his performance at his pro day, his interviews and all that stuff could just make his stock rise even higher. So he had an outstanding senior season. We do know that. And he showed us a little bit more skills that he had, particularly his power during the Senior Bowl. So it's going to be interesting to see what Mike Green can bring to the table. His calling card is edge defender will be explosive. His first step is amazing, right? And we seen that last night. If you go look at what Sweat was doing last night, his first step was ridiculous. And sometimes you can't teach that, man. If you got the first step, look at a guy like Von Miller, come around the corner with that being that he had. Sometimes you can look at a guy like Michael Parsons. That first step is ridiculous. And if you got that first step, God gifted talent, sometimes some things you just can't, you can't take away. We got to come in from Eddie here. It says the key to Philly pressure last night was due to the double close stack 3 technique with the rotations of the interior defense line, which made edge speed dangerous, took Mahomes away from his greatness. You went through all the whole technical and things that you said, but at the end of the day, it just got really ass whooped, man. The offensive line got dominated. You can go through this whatever they scheme, what they did, whatever. The bottom line, they couldn't block them. They only sent 4. They didn't blitz at all. So when the front floor, when you can set up your defense where your front 4 can get home and the quarterback does not have time, he started looking down, right? He started looking down the pass rush, making unadvised throws. He just played probably one of his worst games, but it was due to the pressure that was being put up by the Philadelphia Eagles. And you could talk about the scheme, whatever technique they use. At the bottom, at the end of the day, what happened was they got dominated, completely dominated. That's what happened, and there's no other way around it. It wasn't no exotic blitzes. It wasn't no simulated pressures. It was straight up domination from the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's what it really boils down to. All right, guys, we got 2 more guys we're going to talk about today from a pass rush standpoint. And like I said, I apologize. I wanted to put these guys up so you can see them on the screen. In the future, I will do that with my next draftees that we talk about. So I even might come back and touch on some of these guys again in the future. But right now, I just wanted to give you guys some names to look at. You go do your own research, get your opinion of those guys, and get what scouts are saying about them right now. And then some of the guys that you probably could, like when we get to this part of the scouting combine, you can actually go look at these guys and see what you take away from it as well. right? Next guy on the board is Jack Sawyer, right? Guy out of Ohio State who just won the national championship, 260 pound, 6'5", projected to be an immediate contributor, right? As a base defense packages potential to develop to an every down player. So, you know, this is what they got on them right now. But guys like Zach Sawyer, right? And Atlanta Falcons need to start kind of looking at guys like this, because when I look at a guy like Zach Sawyer and what I see a Max Crosby. I see a guy that has a motor that doesn't stop. When I talked about Brandon Trice, that's what I seen out of him out of the University of Washington. Guys that just relentless, right? Might not have all the the physical testing and all that stuff. But what you see a guy who loves the football and going after that ball relentlessly, and that's what we see out of Zach Sawyer. So I like a guy like this. And this is where, in my opinion, if Atlanta Falcons was to move down, they can double up, right? They can get a guy like Zach Sawyer later on in the first round, and then with the extra pick, they can double up again in the second round and take another defender. So things like this, guys like this, I love guys like this. So definitely 100% with take a guy like Zach Sawyer, because I like the way he plays football. Eddie says, Vic Fangio stated with those defensive line that they're going to be different against their O line. He stated it last night. You still talking, but all we saying is they just got their ass whooped. I mean, you can talk about scheme or whatever, man. They just got dominated. And that's what football is. My wheel is gonna be more than your wheel tonight or today, whenever you play. And that's what happened last night. Those offensive linemen for the Kansas City Chiefs got straight bomb rush last night. And it was just the front four. Just that simple. They didn't have to do no blitz pickups or anything like that. I don't think it was no stunts. I think it was straight up mano and mano, and they dominated. Now, I can tell you this, looking from a football standpoint, the Chiefs kind of played in their hands, right? They ran the ball like 7 times the whole game. So when the team know you're not gonna run the ball, they just pin their ears back and go after the quarterback. So I don't know what Andy Reid was thinking with that. I know it got down quick early, and they was trying to make something happen. But I think when they was down 10-0, they probably should have tried to establish the run more to kind of slow down that pass rush. But once it got out of hand, there's probably nothing else they could do. So, but definitely, that was a game. Keep additional guys in the play secondary against those receivers. Yeah, you can rush forward. That means you got a lot of guys in playing coverage. I agree. That's why you should run the ball. That's why you should run the ball. Eddie said Zach Sawyer is still learning techniques as a D line. He was originally a linebacker. He is going to be a man. You read my mind, cause you said JJ Watt. That's the first person came to mind. I did not want to say his name because JJ Watts is perennial All Pro guy is going to be in the Hall of Fame. But that's who I was thinking about. And that's what I think about. And I can tell you this much: Atlanta Falcons always pass up on guys like this, right? Like they passed up on TJ Watt, and they took freaking McKinley, right? They took Tech McKinley, and they passed up on TJ Watt, right? I just Atlanta Falcons need to go out and make sure they get it right this time, right? So you hit it right on the nail. That's what I think about when I think about Jack Sawyer. I think about a guy like TJ Watt, and I really do. Let's see here. They got behind too early. Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, when they got down 17-0, I think they panicked. But 17-0, I think they should have stick to the game plan. I heard a crazy stat. That first half, I don't think they had more than 4 plays. Um, a drive, which is just amazing how well the defensive game plan was for the Philadelphia Eagles. They just took Kansas City right out the bat. And honestly, man, that's the way you stop a great quarterback. You just don't give him time, right? And Patrick tried to do some of his miraculous stuff, run around and things like that. It just did not work last night. Did not work. It did not work. Like you said, 23 yards in total in the first half. Yeah, it was just domination, man. Actually, I'm be honest with you, I turned the game off in the middle of the third quarter because it was boring. It's boring. It wasn't my team playing, and I did know this. I can say this. When it was down 24-0, I said I do know a team that lost that was up by 25 with 15 minutes left. So I do know a team that happened to. So I still had a little silent flimmer of belief, but the way the Philadelphia Eagles were dominating that game, it was no chance, man. It was not coming back. Honestly, I don't even know how they got 22 points on the board. Those, like how Shannon said, those empty calories, man. They're just giving you that because the game over. But it was complete domination. And even even Spags, he didn't even have an answer for their offense, right? I can tell you this: they shut out Saquon, and that was the game plan. They shut out Saquon, and if anything, maybe they wish they could have got in the shootout with the Philadelphia Eagles. But the way that defensive line played for the Eagles, nada. You rush 4 and you can put 7 in the second in the secondary. Patrick Mahomes don't have nowhere to go. He don't have time because the pass rush was so relentless. So yeah, it was just devastating, man. And he says garbage points. Yeah, yeah. I stopped watching the game, so I don't even know. But I turned it. I think when it was up 27 to zip, maybe even 34 to zip. I think I turned it right after that. But complete domination. Complete domination. All right, guys. The last guy I'm gonna talk about out of Texas A&M who played with Shamar Stewart is Nick Scorton. 285 pounds, 6'4", blend of size, explosiveness, technical refinement projects him as an immediate contributor. And they say 4-3 scheme here, but like I said, depends on what the Atlanta Falcons plan on going to with Jeff Ulbrich, and Raheem Morris. That mix. One thing he stated was they were going to build Atlanta defense, right? So he's not trying to bring the Jets defense with him, and he's going to take some of the good things the Atlanta Falcons did this year in 2024 and create the Atlanta Falcon defense. So it's going to be interesting to see how they scheme this. It's all about the players. We just talked about it. It's going to boil down to the players 100%. The players are the key, right? That's where you're gonna be able to get your bread and butter from, what the players bring to the table. One thing I want to leave you guys with today, and so those 8 guys, please go out and look at these guys. Like I said, I promise you next time when I come back, we're gonna have some more, stats and statistics up so you can get a better idea of who these guys are. But for these 8 guys right here, one of these guys should be available for Atlanta Falcons at number 15. And once again, it's going to be all part of their big board, the way they set up for their BPA. Hopefully, let's just say this. Hopefully, this be the first time in the Terry Fontenot era he takes a defensive player, right? Even maybe a Will Johnson, right? The cornerback out of Michigan. Maybe even take him. That would be lovely as well, right? So we're definitely going to talk about corners, and we're going to get idea of who all these guys are. But you know, let's hopefully they take a defensive player this year. Let's hope they take a defensive player. Um, but one thing that Philip mentioned earlier, he asked about. Actually, it was James. My bad. James mentioned earlier in the chat. He said we need to get younger. Um, and I think I like that idea, right? What makes me jealous about the Philadelphia Eagles are they built the last for a while because they do have young talent on that defensive side of the ball. Look at the young corners they got in DeJean, um, in the other corner. Their young defensive line. The offensive line is going nowhere. Saquon still in his prime. Jalen Hurts is on a good contract. Your two wide receivers and Brown, and they just built to where they're built right now. From a defensive standpoint, there's a young defense, right? You like guy like Nolan Smith, you see Nakobe Dean coming back, right? You see the potential that where the Eagles could run it back and still be really really good next year. That's where you want to see the Atlanta Falcons go. You want to go young. Um, I like the idea of keeping some of the veteran presence there. Between the two defensive tackles we got, in Grady and David, maybe keep one of those guys just to have some kind of veteran presence there. But I like the idea of going young with the Brandon Dorlus, or Braylon Trice, or Rook Roro, or Zach Harrison, right? Armor Ebiketie, D'Angelo Malone. Yes, those guys are young, all young, but we can get these guys playing the way we want them to play. And then you add in a young talent, you know, um, from this draft class, add these guys in as well, right? Sky's the limits here, guys. I just believe that if the Atlanta Falcons could develop these guys and they could make on a run just like that Philadelphia team, right? That's what we want. That's what we want to see. That's what we want to see. The offensive side is good, right? The offense is young, but they're really talented. I think the Atlanta Falcons have found their franchise quarterback, right? You got the continuity on the offensive line. As long as you bring Drew Dalman back, who's going to be a free agent this year, you got to look at. We talked about earlier. You got to look at your Mike Penix's blind side because he's a left-handed quarterback. So you need to look at that right tackle position. Make sure you want Caleb McGarry being, his protector back there, who's really, really awesome in the run game, but questionable sometimes in pass protection. So those are some of the things that Atlanta Falcons got to think from offensive standpoint. But the defense need to catch up with the offense. That's where we need to see the defense need to catch up with the offense. The Atlanta Falcons go young. They started last year going young, right? And they picked 3 young defenders to go on that defensive line, right? And Braylon Trice, Ruka Roro, and Brandon Dorlus. So they already started this. Division, you can see it, right? Zach Harrison's already there, who's still young. Armor Ebiketie, still young. D'Angelo Malone, still young. So you see the youth movement for the Atlanta Falcons, defensive front that they got. But I still believe they need a little veteran presence in there. So between Grady and David, one of those guys, in my opinion, need to come back. Of course, I'm gonna be a little biased. I'm gonna say keep Grady, right? Because I still think he's playing well. Maybe not, to standard. He will be another year removed from the injury that he's took in 2023. So we'll see if he can get back to form. We know Grady wants it. We know he wants to bring a championship to the Atlanta. So if they can, come up with a deal with him to lower his cap number, bring a guy like Grady back. But other than that, I like the idea of going young. I really do on that defensive front. You look at the Los Angeles Rams, what they was able to do with their young talent they got, and they're gonna be a problem, here in the future, moving forward because they got so much young talent. Look what Philly's able to do with their young talent that they got. We got to be able to catch up with the offensive side of the ball. So I like that idea. And plus, you're gonna have to start paying some of those guys on the offensive side here soon. So you want to be able to get guys on rookie deals to be able to keep him there for a couple of years. Because of what the pass rusher did the last 5 or 6 games, we might go cornerback. You are correct, and that's what somebody. I was on the one time for the Falcon fans on Friday, and that's what the one of the gentlemen mentioned. He actually mentioned that because you can see the potential that was there, right? I think they had 22 sacks in the last 5 or 6 games. So you see the potential there, right? So I agree with you. Maybe the tweaks here, tweaks there. Maybe they feel like they already got the right staff there. They add one more body. You know, Brandon Trice coming back, another guy. Brandon Dorless never really got a lot of burn. Bring him back. You know, Rook Roro going from year 1 to year 2. Just things like that you can look at, and you might be able to see the potential. So great point by you, Philip. Eddie says getting younger, but within the right DC. For example, Philly went out and got Fangio, who's a mastermind of knows how to get young talent to play well. Yes, but he still got some great young talent. Yeah, it's not like he got some scrubs playing, right? Jalen Carter is really good. You know, Jordan Davis is really good. Cooper DeJean is really good. So it's not like he got scrubs out there. He worked with those guys. So you still got to get talented guys. So right, you're right about putting the right DC, and Dick Fangio one of the great DCs in the game anyway. So I'm not arguing that, but their guys are talented as well. So I don't want to take that away from their talent that they had, saying that it was all the DC. Raheem and an organization and scouts are looking for the next Aaron Donald to make his defense go. Man, whoever that is, if they can find him in this draft, pluck him in, right? Right? I don't think nobody knew that Aaron Donald was going to be that good coming out of Pitt, right? But you scouts got to see that, right? You got to be able to pull those guys and see. And maybe you're right. They might be here to find the next Aaron Donald. Just never know. What's going on, T Terry? Yeah, man. If you're just catching up, I went over 8 potential, drafty pass rushers that Atlanta Falcons could definitely target. The first one, I don't think they're gonna be able to get a dual Carter just because he's going to be going. I think he's going in the top 5. But between James Pierce, Michael Williams, Landon Jackson, Shamar Stewart, Mike Green, Jack Sawyer, and Nick Scorton, those guys, and that's just the top 8 right now. It's more guys that could definitely flash and be talent. I know a lot of people are really high on a guy like Mike Green. What his senior season was really explosive. He made some more money for what he was able to do in the Senior Bowl. Shamar Stewart is already being projected to be a guy that Atlanta Falcons would pick at the number 15 overall pick. He's a bigger body guy, 6'6", 290 pounds. Depends on what the Atlanta Falcons want at that. One of my sneak guys, me and Eddie was talking about, is Jack Sawyer, somebody I think that got a lot of potential that could really be special. Just want to see him develop, and he could be really somebody that is going to get in. I like his motor. That's what I like about Zach Sawyer. But guys, give me your thoughts on these guys. Who would you think the Atlanta Falcons should pick out of those 8 guys right there? Or do you think the Atlanta Falcons should move back in the draft and try to pick up more draft capital? We know the Atlanta Falcons only got 5 picks, 2 of which is 7-round picks. So technically we only got like 3 picks, guys. That could be contributors, to the team this year. So Atlanta Falcons need to hit on those 3 picks. They need to also do really good in free agency with limited cap space, right? So Atlanta Falcons got a lot. This is one of the most challenging off seasons for the Atlanta Falcons because of the cap situation and the limited draft capital that they have. But I'm excited to see what they do. And we'll definitely be on the lookout. So just going back over the next thing on the schedule, guys, is Scouting Combine. It's going on February 24th. March 10th through 12th is the negotiation period, the tampering period. And then March 12th is the new league year. Will the Atlanta Falcons cut Kirk Cousins before then, or will they find a trade partner for him on that? The Atlanta Falcons got to be up under the cap by then as well. They're able to start their offseason program on the 21st of April, and then the draft is on the 24th. So that's where we're at. Let's get these last couple comments out here. He said, I'm just looking for their scouting report insider. Yep. I hope we draft JT DM out of Ohio. There you go. Number 44. Okay. It says move back 5 or 6 spots to get another second and pick Mike Green. Yeah, I agree. Like I said, if Mike Green was to fall back to, in the 20s, that would be awesome, man. And like I said, even a guy like Jack Sawyer fall back, I would drop that guy as well. Say number 11, you like him too. I'm assuming you're talking about the young man out of Georgia. We're going to get into linebackers because right now he's listed as a linebacker, even though he was really, really good at pass rush as well. So it's going to be interesting to see where teams see Walker at moving forward in the draft. That's what we're definitely going to see where the teams see him at in the draft. So, guys, there you have it. There you have it. My top pass rushers for the 2025 draft, according to the scouts. It's still early. It's still early in the scouting prospects, though. For us, these guys been looking at these guys for probably like the last 2 years, so they way ahead of the game on, on all of us. Now the coaches just getting into the film, because the coaches was worried about coaching this year, right? So the coaches probably just starting to get into the film with some of these players and trying to get caught up with the scouting department and to see where some of these guys at. But the scouts for the teams, trust me, they've been working these guys probably for the last 2 seasons. So they know what they got. They know what the coach want, right? What he's looking for. And they're going to sell their guys, those scouts from those different regions and things, because they've been looking at these guys every day, in and out, going to practice, going in the community, asking questions, seeing what kind of characters these guys have, and saying this is a good investment for teams. So it's going to be really interesting to see. Eddie says NFL scouts got Walker listed as a guy like a Micah Parsons to be used. Exactly. And I can see that. I definitely can see that. I think he might go higher than people think as well. And a lot of people got him projected in the teens, which I can see that, but he might go higher than that because that guy was a problem. He was definitely a problem for teams that played against Georgia. In my opinion, he might be the best player on the defense a lot of times, especially if you go back to those 2 Texas games when we played the University of Texas. Michael Walker had his fingerprints all over that game from a defensive standpoint. So it'd be interesting to see how they list him. Maybe he might actually work out with some pass rush, as well, just like a Michael Parsons did. And Eddie says you got him projected top 10, so definitely can see him a top 10 pick. Definitely, 100%. All right, guys, there you have it. Let me know what you think about the top pass rushers. Did I miss anybody on your list that you got that you're watching right now? And if I did, please let me know who they are. and definitely I take a look at them and give you my opinion on those guys. So there you have it. Thank you guys for tuning in today. The next draft preview will be better. I promise you that. We'll have some stats up. We'll take a look at these guys and see, um, get a little bit more information on them, so you can kind of get your more informed and opinion on those guys. And what do you think the Atlanta Falcons need to do moving forward? So, guys, thank you for tuning in today. We are here, guys. The off season is here. Once again, congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles for knocking the Kansas City Chiefs off their perch, right? The great Patrick Mahomes had a terrible day yesterday, and I know he's going to be come back with vengeance next year. So those AFC teams better be ready. Um, there you have it. This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.